Alright, let's dive right into this explainer and completely demystify the complex, and let's be honest, highly competitive admission process for IIM Calcutta's 2026 to 2028 MBA batch. If you're an MBA aspirant, IIM Calcutta is probably sitting right at the top of your dream list, and for good reason. It's part of that legendary IIM ABC trio, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, and Calcutta. We're talking average placement packages north of 34 lakh per annum, and a legacy stretching all the way back to 1961. But here's the catch. Snagging one of those 462 seats means navigating a selection process that is wildly misunderstood. So today we're going to break down exactly how it all works.
Now, if you take a look at the official policy, the minimum CAT cutoff, just to be considered, is the 85th percentile. Sounds incredibly attainable, right? Well, that number actually gives a lot of candidates false hope, thinking that simply doing, reasonably well on the CAT exam guarantees them a shot at an interview.
But here is the stark contrast between that official floor and reality. That 85th percentile? It's really just an administrative threshold. The actual data shows us that to genuinely secure a personal interview call, general category candidates, especially engineers, need to be scoring well above the 99th percentile. So yeah, there's a massive gap between the myth of the official brochure and the actual reality of the applicant pool.
To understand how that math actually works, we're going to walk through the exact application funnel step by step. We'll quickly cover baseline eligibility, Stage 1 floors, how the Stage 2 personal interview shortlist is calculated, the dramatic shift in Stage 3 final selection, the role of diversity and work experience, and finally wrap up with timelines and top mistakes. Section 1. Baseline eligibility. Setting the foundation. Let's get the absolute minimum academic requirements out of the way first. So you need a bachelor's degree with at least 50% marks, though that drops to 45% for reserved categories. Got a CA, ICWA, or CS degree? Perfectly fine too. And here's a fantastic piece of news for college seniors. There's absolutely zero minimum work experience required to apply. Freshers can and definitely do get in. However, there is a critical elimination factor here. A 0 or negative raw score in literally any CAT section instantly eliminates you. It doesn't matter what your overall percentile is. You could score 99.9 overall, but if you say leave the verbal section blank or score negative, your application is tossed out immediately.
Moving on to Section 2, Stage 1, the floors and minimum CAT cutoffs. Let's look at that first major screening hurdle.
This table lays out the official minimum floors just to enter the consideration pool. But remember our reality check earlier. General engineer males often need a 99.5 plus, while non-engineers and females might get calls around the 97 to 98 mark. You absolutely must clear these minimums in verbal ability, DILR, and quant individually. For the general category, you need 80 in verbal and DILR and 75 in quant, which adds up to an overall minimum of 85. Notice how the overall requirement scales down across the EWS, OBC, SC, ST, and PWD categories, dropping all the way to a 55 overall floor. But again, guys, these are just the floors to keep your application breathing for the next round.
Now for Section 3, Stage 2, the PI shortlist, deriving the composite score. If you do clear Stage 1, IIM Calcutta calculates a pre-personal interview composite score out of 85 points.
And this breakdown is exactly why IIM Calcutta is famous for being a wildly CAT-heavy school. Look at that! A massive 56-point weight is placed entirely on your CAT score. Out of the 85 total points up for grabs here, your CAT performance is the undeniable heavyweight. Your Class 12 marks are worth 15 points, and Class 10 marks are worth 10. There's also a 4-point bonus for gender diversity, specifically awarded to female and transgender candidates. That diversity bonus, by the way, is exactly why female candidates might snag interview calls at slightly lower CAT percentiles than the guys.
But hey, a quick word of warning about those Class 10 and 12 points. You need to be really careful here, because they will calculate your 10th and 12th percentages using every single subject on your grade sheet. Yes, even if your board drops the lowest score. So if you took an extra elective, kind of slacked off and scored poorly, thinking your school would just use your best of 5, well, IIM Calcutta doesn't play by those rules. They will factor that lower score right into your aggregate. It's a strict, literal, mathematical average of everything printed on that document.
Which brings us to Section 4, Stage 3, Final Selection. The game changes. Once you are shortlisted for the personal interview and the writing ability test, the formula shifts completely.
You've made it through the hardest numerical filter, but now it's all about who you are beyond the exams. At this final stage, notice how the personal interview suddenly dominates at 48%, while your CAT score shrinks all the way down to 30.
Crazy, right? All of a sudden, that test you spent months and months agonizing over is worth less than a third of your final admission offer. The writing ability test takes up 8%, work experience gets 8%, and academic diversity accounts for the final 6%.
So what does this actually mean for you? It means a staggering 86% of your final score is completely in your control through your CAT, WAT, and PI performances. Even if your past academic record isn't absolutely flawless, or maybe you don't have years of work experience under your belt, your ability to crush the test, write a killer essay, and communicate effectively in front of a panel of professors makes up the vast majority of your final evaluation.
Let's transition to Section 5, Diversity and Work Experience, the Strategic Equalizers. This is how the Institute actively builds a diverse classroom so it isn't just a room full of people with the exact same background.
This academic diversity score acts as a massive equalizer. It allows candidates with commerce, arts, law, or professional finance backgrounds to compete head-to-head strongly against the giant pool of engineers. If you fall into these non-engineering categories, you are awarded up to 6 points in the final selection stage. It's a very deliberate strategy by the school to bring totally different perspectives into their case study discussions.
Now, when we talk about work experience, 12 to 36 months is the absolute sweet spot for maximizing your points. But listen closely, unpaid internships or articleships absolutely do not count. The maximum you can get is 8 points, and that's calculated based on your completed months of service after graduation. So if you have between 1 to 3 years of formal, paid experience, you are sitting in a very strong position. Interestingly, though, if you have more than 48 months of experience, the score actually starts tapering off.
Wrapping up with Section 6, Timelines and Top Mistakes, your application roadmap. Let's map out your journey so you don't stumble on any frustrating administrative hurdles, because honestly, the best profile in the world won't save you if you miss a hard deadline.
Track these months very carefully. The CAT happens in late 2025 with results declared in December. If you clear that rigorous Stage 2 shortlist, you're going to hear about your interview in January or February of 2026. Then, you'll sit for the WAT and PI between February and April, with final admission offers rolling out in April and May. But here is the kicker. All your final academic proofs must be submitted no later than September 30, 2026. That deadline is extremely strict. If you're a final year student and your university delays your degree certificate past that date, your admission will be automatically canceled.
Along this timeline, there are some pretty major administrative and strategic pitfalls you absolutely have to avoid. For instance, neglecting those tricky sectional cutoffs we talked about earlier can end your run in a flash. So many candidates hyperfixate on getting a 99 overall and completely bomb one specific section. Another massive pitfall? Claiming unpaid internships as formal work experience, or walking into the interview room completely unprepared to answer deep, technical questions about your undergraduate degree. Remember, the interview panel wants to see genuine intellectual curiosity and competence, not just someone who happens to be really good at taking multiple choice tests.
So with 86% of the final decision directly in your hands, the ultimate bottleneck isn't just your past grades, it's your preparation from this day forward. You have the power to shape this. The only thing left to ask yourself is, are you ready for the IIM Calcutta call? Keep these insights in mind, build your strategy, and best of luck on your journey.